FBSC Finance brings you 30 Minutes in Finance, your weekly finance-related podcast. I'm your host, David Garbutt. Now on with the podcast. Welcome to another podcast. Today I've got Alex Vickery on. Hi, Alex.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. For everyone that's listening, could you just give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I'm a property finance broker. I mostly focus on the investment side. So as you can imagine, mostly development finance, land purchases, or any sort of investment properties from blocks of flats, hotels, mostly aiming at the commercial sector and the residential investment sector.
Okay, perfect, thanks. And in terms of your sort of history, how long have you been doing this for?
I've been in the industry for around 6 to 7 years now. So I like to think I've seen it all. And
Yeah. Can you give us a little sort of breakdown on sort of how you got into the industry and sort of where you are now and how that sort of progressed and what the areas that you've actually sort of operated in?
yeah, sure. So I joined the role. A close friend of mine was the head of HR for a large packager, and this is a new industry I always wanted to get into. So I asked if I could try and get in, and the only role that was applicable for me at the time was as a business development manager. So I'd be on the phones, making calls to other uh, brokers, mortgage advisors, and try and get their business. And then eventually I was thrown right into the deep end and became a broker or an advisor, however you want to label us these days.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then from that, I proceeded on to going through other packages and now starting my own business.
Oh, brilliant. And when you say obviously you always wanted to get into this industry, what
Hmm.
was it that actually kind of prompted you or what sort of enticed you into this world? Is it the money?
Um, that's always, people are lying if they don't say it's not that. But I think one of the key things was um, it's just a good job to have. It's very much. I always compare the financial services industry like a trade. When you compare yourself to like a plumber or an electrician or something along those sorts. It's one of those jobs that you have to do for a long time to specialize at. And yeah, it's just one of those things I just found it'd be a very good trade to have because we'll always have property that will be worth something, and we'll always have people who want to add that property to their portfolio. So it just ticked a lot of boxes mentally for me, really.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think it's growing, I think, as more people get into property and everything. You've just started up your own business then. Do you want to give
Mm.
us a quick sort of overview of what you're looking to do with that and where you
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
see it going?
Well, of course. So I've started off literally just a small company to deal with current clients and uh, newer portfolio clients, just to help them with their ongoing property acquisitions or future endeavors as well, including refinances. So mostly I'm sticking to the unregulated fields of bridging, development finance, and yeah, just going down that route. But also for anything else that is not my cup of tea, I've got some close companies that I've worked with previously were helping assist me in that category because it's always good to have friends who are in brokerages and especially packages. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like to think that I can still do most of the things that I can do now, but I can delegate a lot more of it, focus on the meat and potatoes, as they say.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of the business that you're actually seeing, is it mostly those developers and portfolio landlords?
Well, that's the funny thing. I've always throughout my career, for what I've been doing, I've always attracted a lot of cases that have had difficulties with other avenues. So you'll always have a lot of people who have given the wrong advice, or have thought a lender could do something for them, but they just didn't know their criteria or their just the way they worked, really. And I've always picked up on those cases. And I like to think I've saved a lot of those deals and put people in a better position. That's always my sort of role that's followed me all these years, really.
And is that why you sort of decided to go out on your own, that you were rescuing other people and thought, hey, if I'm sort of saving it all the time, might as well take all of the sort of upside as well?
Yeah, well, it's that, but also it's the as you can imagine, um, when I was working as a packager, um, it was an employed role, so it's very hard to focus just on one or two or three or four cases. As a packager, you're tremendously busy. You're dealing with so many cases, and it's nice now to deal with um, clients that I can focus on. But also on the other side of things, because it's my business now and I'm dealing directly with these clients, a lot of the fees that entailed with uh, larger packages and things like that, I don't have to put on their bill. So not only is it saving my clients money, but I like to think things are getting done quicker and smoother, because I've got a lot more focus on their cases, and I can delegate a lot of it out, like I mentioned before, with other packages that I trust. And yeah.
Yeah, because on the packager side, because there's quite a few large ones, are they sort of mainly like sort of rate driven in terms of, do they just sort of whack stuff out to the cheapest lenders and have good relationships with a few, or is it really kind of, do they spread the load?
To be honest with you, packages, um, uh, you know, they have to be very regulated. So best advice is always key. And one thing I've experienced working for packages is that it's not always rate driven. A lot of the time they will go with the right product for the right client, which is exactly what you should be doing. But one thing that I've noticed on the investment side of things, when it comes to best advice, is also you can tend to, obviously everything's profit driven. So if a lender comes to you and says to you, right, okay, I can give you the best rate and I'll give you the best proc fee and I'll give you the best service. And then you go down that road with this new lender, this new product, and this best advice ticks everywhere. But then sometimes, because you haven't experienced that lender or that product, or something's changed internally for them, loopholes can appear. Do you know what I mean? Certain things, you're
Yeah.
just caught in this circle of, can you get me this information? Can you get me this information? And that's when the alarm bells start ringing for clients and people start getting worried. And a lot of the time people will pull out. These things can happen, or the worst case scenario, the case can fall through the cracks. So the good thing about what I think I'm doing is not only am I saving the clients on fees and getting close to the interest rates, or sometimes even beating or matching the interest rates the packages are offering, but also I'm offering them dedication, which I think is key in this industry. You really need to dedicate yourself to your clients and show them that, you know, it means the world to you as much, not as much to them, but you know, it does mean a lot for you to keep that repeat business, and also make sure that their dreams come through on the end of it, you know.
Yeah.
Because I was just going to say that one thing I've noticed a lot in the industry at the moment is there's a lot of prime bridging out there. There's a lot of really good interest rates out there, but the thing is, what I've noticed is the lower the interest rate you go, the tougher the deal is to get across. On a lot of instances, this isn't always the case. So a lot of the time, when I speak to my clients, I'll say to them, right, how quickly do you need this to get done? And then based on my experience, I'll lay out a plan and say, right, okay, well, I've got this lender I've worked with for a long time. I know their processes. They're more expensive than X, Y, or Z, but they'll get it done on this date. But if you don't mind waiting another with this industry another month or two, we can aim at going down that route. So yeah, it's a lot more customizable.
Yeah, because I think that is the key. It's that deliverability factor that a lot of people don't take into account. And obviously, as a lender that isn't the cheapest, we
Yeah.
we know all about that side of things. But going back to obviously sort of yourself as a person, given the sort of role that you're doing, what would you say your sort of day job is? If somebody described it to you, would you say you're more of a sort of salesperson or an advisor, or just a general entrepreneur? How would you describe yourself?
To be honest with you, this sounds strange, but to be honest with you, I think of myself as more of a business partner to a lot of these people. A lot of the people I work with, I'll help them as much as I can in all categories that I'm applicable to. So we'll discuss, not only will we discuss the finance, we'll discuss, is this a good idea for me to do? How much interest will I be paying? So we'll do a long-term plan based on my experience to see if a deal works for them. Because a lot of the people I've worked with, I've helped grow their portfolios tremendously. So a lot of the time they do rely on my advice, not from just from a property finance broker, but as not so much as a friend, but as a oh, how easy will this deal be to get across the line, and how much will I get towards my bill costs? How much interest will I be paying in the long term? How easy is it for me to refinance? There's, I know it sounds a lot like I'm just talking like a property finance broker, but a lot of the time, if I think it's going to be a detriment to my client, I'll let them know, because I would prefer them save their money and save their stress to find something better for themselves. And that's happened on many of occasions. And to be honest with you, it's got 100% success rate. So as a
Yeah,
business partner, and it just works. Yeah, yeah.
bit of a sounding board where they can sort of bounce ideas off, sort of off you, and get a sense of, does this work? As that's, I think that's the key. As once you really understand their business and what they're after, it does allow you to sort of really actually help you become a cog in their machine, as opposed to just somebody that comes in and leaves them be and goes, here's your offer, and then sort of leaves them be to just get everything sorted. When it comes to your actual client base, are you generally geographically restricted, or do you have them, is there any sort of particular area you work more in?
No, not at all, actually. So predominantly I deal with clients who are around the London area. Um, but I've got clients in Bristol, like I mentioned, London, Scotland, and I've got a lot of foreign national clients. As you can imagine, because I do a lot of investment finance, there's a lot of investors overseas who my contacts are in touch with, and I assist them. For example, I've got one, well, I say broker, but he's more of a friend. He introduces a lot of clients from Greece, because that's where he's from, and he spends a lot of time over there, and I deal with a lot of his clients. I've got a lot of family business that I deal with, so I've got a lot of Asian clients who will bring in um, brothers, sisters, cousins, etc., their friends, to help deal with their investment property purchases and refinances as well, and structuring as well. So, helping them structure deals and how they can maximize their profits and everything else. So yeah, it's very widely sourced, but the key thing is it always comes from a happy client, and that's what I like to do. I love getting repeat business from someone who trusts me for what I do, because you know if your best friend or your brother or your sister came to you and said, this guy really looked after me when I got my buy-to-let or when I got my commercial property, he really ticks the boxes for me. And also it creates the mindset for them to do the same thing that their brother or sister did. So they'll say, right, yeah, go speak to this guy, go speak to this guy. And yeah, it works.
And is that sort of the vast majority of where your business actually comes from, sort of referrals?
Yeah, a lot of the time it's on a referral basis. Yeah, a lot of the time it'll be out of the blue and someone will message me and say, oh, hi, yeah, you helped so and so from so and so ago. Can you speak to my cousin or my uncle or whatever? And yeah, we'll go from there.
Awesome. And
And
as you haven't been sort of long as a
no,
sort
not
of
at all, not at all.
solo, just what is it, a month or so, or but obviously in
Well,
the
to be honest with
business.
you, I only just got incorporated yeah, Friday of last week, to be honest with you. My
Yeah.
accountant's
So
just
well,
finally, yeah,
well, that's great. Congratulations. It's a
thank you.
big first step. And obviously, in terms of for other people listening that might be just
Mhm,
getting into it,
mm.
how did you find that process in terms of have you gone down the regulated route, or is that a step you're going to look at in the future? Yeah.
Yeah, I will, I want to stick to the unregulated space, but I do want to start looking at more of the term funders, and a lot of them require to be on the FCA register, which is
Yeah.
something I'm definitely going to look into. But at the moment, I'm just going to stick to bridging. So that covers the majority of fields. So, you know, you've got your first charge, second charge bridging, your development finance, your land purchases, your foreign national, your expats, but also uh, I can look at bridging in other countries as well. So most EU countries we can look at, so that's not a problem. But from a new person looking in, uh, um, I would say your best bet personally is to join a network of some sort or become a trainee of some sort and get as much experience as possible. But also from the there's a lot of social experience that you need as well. So you'll see a lot of people jump into this industry and just try and take off. But a lot of the time, what they'll do is they'll start the social approach first. So they won't know any of the products too well. They know what they do, but what they do know what to do is get people to be interested in what they're saying and how they say it. Then they'll they'll try and place it, and that's where it falls down. So really what you need to do is you need to get that social part. You need to know that you can get business in, but also at the same time is learn your products.
Yeah. Would you say it's
And
not the sort of industry that you can fake it till you make it?
not at all. As soon as you fake it once,
You get
the
caught out.
oh, very much so, very much so. And the thing is, a lot of people who do dive into their first attempt in investment property purchasing or refinancing, they're aware and of to be honest, a lot of them are like little brokers themselves. They'll know what bridging is. They'll know what buy-to-let mortgages are. They're aware of interest only, capital repayment, and everything else. They're even aware of certain lenders and basic criteria. So if you go knocking at their door thinking you're going to snag a large portfolio landlord, prepare to be tested. And if you haven't done your homework, yeah, they will close the door and you'll never speak to them again.
Yeah, no, I think that, and that is, it is the key to all successful brokers. Obviously, we work with dozens, if not sort of tens of dozens, all the time with our own funding, and you can
Mhm.
really tell the difference between some of them that just know everything, know all the lenders, know, are very comfortable, and some others that are just learning, and that's obviously you've got to take the time to do that. And if how have you sort of picked up most of your knowledge? Is it just by doing and talking to lenders, or?
To be honest, because I work for such a lot of the packages I work for, I'm not going to mention any names, are very big and very good at what they do. And like all things, there's not really a training program for being a broker. It's very experience driven. You have to do the job to learn the job, and the social skills come along with that, because it's on an employed basis. You have to get as much in as possible, and you have to complete as much as possible, but also giving a good service on the end of that for the broker and the client that you're dealing with. So you experience a lot of everything, So how I learned myself, I've got a pretty good memory. So what I used to do was, whenever I got a case in, I'd have the criteria in front of me, and I'd think, right, who's going to be the best fit for this case? And I would go through criteria, until in the end, you just absorb it, really. You just get that information, and eventually you'll get a case and you'll be, oh yeah, that was like Mr. Jones's 3 weeks ago. And you try and find out if it's exactly the same or along those lines. And yeah, that's what you do. There's a lot of repetition involved, but no case is exactly the same. But yeah, that's probably the
Do you
best way of doing
find
it.
yeah, it now is a lot easier when you get something in, you sort of, does it just pop into your head? You go, okay, that's a XYZ lender's deal. And then if they find something wrong with it, you go, okay, if they don't like it, I can move to this. Or do you do a sort of scattergun approach and go, all right, I'll send it to these 5? Or do you know exactly which lender to sort of try with initially?
Yeah, well, I've got a lot of good relationships in the industry with a lot of lenders. So because I've dealt with them and spoke to them on a personal level and on a business level, you kind of get a feeling for the case. You get, it sounds strange, but it almost becomes like a new part of your brain, this business sourcing part of your brain, where you just think, no, they won't like that. Yeah, they'll like that. And then you'll go down that route.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll speak to 2, 3, maybe even 4 lenders I think it'll fit the criteria for, and just go from there.
Yeah, because is that obviously, do you think it's always best to get a couple of lenders' opinions and views and rates on it, just so that you can go back to the client with multiple options? As you were saying earlier, obviously this one might be a little bit more expensive, but this is the pros for this one, but these are the cons, and that kind of thing. Is that generally the approach you take?
Yeah, but yeah, it is. But like you mentioned back then, like how I mentioned about rate isn't always best advice, and that's true for a lot of instances, because a lot of people don't realize, yes, people be paying more interest and everything else, but the key phrase out of all of this is time is money. So I mean, some people can't afford to wait 2 or 3 months to get a refinance done, to move in for a deposit of an investment, or to repay something like a mortgage or something along those lines. And again, time is money, especially in the way we are at the moment. If I'm doing a refurbishment project for a client and we're weighing up how much I can get them day one and what the bill costs are, with everything going, bill costs are going through the roof at the moment. So the longer I'm waiting to get things done, people are actually losing money. So yeah, you have to weigh up all odds. It's not just all about interest. A lot of the money can be lost through, clients pulling out because you've taken so long and they've just lost a 5 or 10% deposit. Solicitor costs going up because it's taking longer. Valuers not having the availability available. There's so many different variables there that can cost a lot more than an extra 0.1 or 0.2% interest, or even 0.5% of interest. Yeah, you really have to weigh up all the odds and look after your clients to see what's best for them, really.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. And I think in regards to the actual interest rates, obviously with the base rate sort of creeping up, have you noticed that sort of pull into the bridging world yet, or are we still?
Oh,
Uh,
massively. Yeah, massively. I mean, if you look at the commercial mortgage rate, or even the buy-to-let rates were adverse, well, not even adverse, but slight adverse or some issues or something along those lines. Some of the interest rates that they're firing out at the moment, around the 6% to 7% mark.
Wow. Yep,
So yeah,
that's bridging
which
levels with
it
some of
is, it
the
is.
low cost bridges anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're quoting something like 0.6 or 0.7, and there's no early redemption costs where those buy-to-lets would have early redemption costs, if anything, you're saving the money.
Yeah,
And yeah, and especially if you're buying and flipping or you're buying and enhancing the property, yeah, it's a no-brainer to look at bridging at the moment. So if anything, it's a detriment to a lot of people. But for a lot of people who are buying flipping property or improving properties or have unmortgageable assets that they want to refinance on, yeah, bridging's really taking a step up at the moment.
perfect. And I'm conscious of the time, so I just don't want to make sure we drag on too long. But do you want to sort of, if anyone wants to find you, or how do they go about finding you? Do you want to sort of let people know where they can get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, I've got quite a large presence on LinkedIn just through the years of doing it and saying some of the strange endeavors that I've been on in the finance industry and helping a lot of people. So yeah, please find me on LinkedIn. If you just search for Alex Vickery, you'll probably notice me. My company's called VIPF. That'll be shortly listed, which is Vickery Investment Property Finance. And yeah, that's probably the best way. And from LinkedIn, I can quite happily introduce you to what everyone's working on, WhatsApp or my email or anything else like that. No problems at all.
Perfect. And do you have a website yet?
Not yet. I've just got incorporated, but I'll have a
Yeah,
landing page or something for up soon. I paid some money to get the domain, so yeah,
perfect.
I have to use it soon when my clients and the lenders allow me to.
Yeah, once you get that, let me know and I'll add it on to the footnote to this as well. So,
Perfect. Yeah,
but yeah,
great.
that is brilliant. Thanks so much for your time, Alex. Obviously, we can do this again. I'm sure that there's a whole lot more we can talk about. But for now, thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much as well. And yeah, we'll get something sorted.
Cool. Cheers.